This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, truth seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I would like to welcome to the show Nolan Del Campo.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. How was your week?
It was solid. I had court Monday through Wednesday, and then I was picking up a felony case yesterday, but they didn't pay me, so I didn't go.
I've threatened to do this before, and I think I have a client that you also shared with me at one point because I referred him to you, and I may or may not show up as well.
No, I haven't been retained yet, so I didn't, and they're trying to rush the judgment on the guy. They're trying to do a prelim when he hasn't even seen the discovery.
Huh. So it's just like a preliminary hearing, or?
Yeah, well, in a felony matters, you're entitled to a prelim within 10 days. And with public defenders, the way they do it, if you're in custody, what they try to do is burden the DA. So if you're in custody, they automatically set it for a prelim within the 10 days. But without even a chance to try and work something out ahead of, without even conferencing or anything, they just set it for prelim.
So how does that burden the DA?
Because they have to rush, because the prelims, it's all on the DA. It's a DA show. They have to prove that there's enough evidence in the case to proceed to trial.
But they have to get that evidence to the defense within 10 days.
Well, sooner than that, and then the hearing's within 10 days.
Right. So, okay, I see the pressure now.
Yeah, then the judge determines if there's enough evidence to proceed to trial. They told to hold them over for trial.
Okay,
but
that makes sense.
Yeah, what I was going to do, I was going to send it back to the home court and try and negotiate. First, I hadn't seen the discovery either. So, anyway, I think they're just rushing through. Yeah.
If you haven't been paid, you can't get started on doing anything.
Because once you come in, you're in, and you got to make at least 3 appearances.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I've made 2 appearances, and I've not been paid for the last 2 appearances. And so,
they've reached your deal then.
Pretty much. And on the last appearance, I made it very clear that he was to catch up before court took place. I get there, of course, he doesn't pay me like he should. And then I tell him, look, I know that I didn't get to testify once again. I'll be happy to defer your retainer to the January date if you catch up your bill for the last 2 appearances. Not a peep, not a word. So he's either going to get recharged for for the retainer fee and expected to pay all of that money up front before I even walk out the door. Like, there's no more trusting this person.
Yeah, you should send him a letter to that effect, though, so you have it in writing. Or email, at least,
Yeah, email. That sounds like a good idea. Well, I had some exciting things happen this last week. See if we can get this up. I got my certificate of achievement for graphology, so I'm very excited about that. Right. Awesome. So I'm going to, I just requested for my fictitious business name statement for the new logo, which will throw up the presentation and show you that I have developed a logo for graphology, which will be a separate business, obviously, from the forensics, offering profiling and behavioral trading through handwriting, which is going to be extremely exciting. I find this far more interesting than the forensics and the fighting with the dirty people in court. I think because these people, when they come to you, they want to know things. Are you looking at my Kuehler ad? Get off my Kuehler ad.
Where?
What's that?
Where?
Quayar. I'll try to say that right. My tongue likes L's evidently, like tortilla. I'm kidding.
So what did he pardon him for?
I don't know. I guess if I had actually cared to read the news, because just like I don't watch the news, I don't either read the news. It was the caption.
The name sounds really familiar, and he's obviously a politician.
Correct. So my whole point for throwing that up there is that it came up obviously as a notification on my phone, and when I clicked on it, it said, "No more Mr. Nice Guy. Trump bashes Republican Henry."
No, I think it's representative.
No, Republican, because let me finish the headline. Republican Henry, what'd you say? Karr?
Quayar. Quayar.
For running as a Democrat after pardon. He says, one day ago, Washington, President Donald Trump criticized Republican Henry Quayar for a loyalty for running as a Democrat after receiving a pardon.
Yeah, I wonder what he did to earn the punishment that required a pardon.
Well, and I really don't even care what he did. The bottom line is that they've got this good old boy system up here in these ranks with these politicians where they can pardon people for crimes, and they get away with it. Yeah. So obviously, I mean, we saw Biden pardon his own son for anything past and present that might be figured out. So who knows, his son may have been wrapped up with that whole Epstein thing. It really kind of boggled me as to why he was doing future pardon for anything that his son may or may not have done. Anyways,
on both sides.
On both sides. And more to the point that so a couple of my favorite shows are Blacklist and Ozarks on Netflix. And in Ozarks, I was watching where they were, trying to get out of the drug cartel business and into something legitimate. And Wendy was making the claim that, we're going to go legit now. And her daughter says something like, "It doesn't matter. You made your money illegally." And Wendy says back, "It doesn't matter how you made your money. America forgets." A couple months that'll be underneath the blanket, basically, and we will be legit. And from then on out, we don't have to break any more laws. Which, no, if you came up breaking laws, you continue breaking laws. You don't just stop because you're now legit. You're just a little bit more undercover about how you're breaking those laws.
Yeah, like Granddaddy Kennedy.
Exactly. Well,
he made his money illicitly, and then they became legit.
Everybody in politics, basically, it feels like. Especially, we talked about the representative from Florida last week, or a couple weeks ago, where her healthcare business had absconded with millions of dollars from COVID relief funds in order to fund her campaign and get her. So now she's up for indictment. Like, these people just do whatever it takes to get to where they want and to protect their money.
Right. Now, it's like the Godfather. Al Pacino keeps telling Diane Keaton, "Swear, after this happens, we're going to go completely legit. We'll be above board." What about prior 30 years?
Well, and more importantly, when I saw this headline, it made me feel very disturbed with Trump, who was formerly a Democrat, who clearly was aware he was never going to take presidency as a Democrat. What did he run as an independent party first, but didn't make it, and then finally as a Republican and made it?
Yep.
And here he's bashing somebody else for a lack of loyalty, which is exactly what I said the second I found out that Trump used to be a Democrat and supported the Clintons.
My question is, when was he ever a nice guy? This is no more.
That is a very good point, because I am not sure. I don't think that he ever has been. If you watch The Apprentice, you'd know he's not.
No, he's a punk. He's always been a punk.
So I plan on getting into these things a little bit more, but I found I had collected old articles, and Juan, tell Dean I'm in the middle of my podcast, and I told him not until after 11 my time. He's calling me right now. Thank you, Juan. I keep old articles. Let's see if we can get this one up. This is the Times Herald, the Daily Times Herald out of Dallas, Texas. And it is dated June 12th, 1953. And the article that
Wow.
Yeah, 1953. Oh, this thing is old as can be. I mean, like, look at these paper edges. Yeah, it's basically dark yellow, very, very fragile and crispy. But the article that caught my attention in this is actually from Eisenhower. And Eisenhower is basically talking about his disdain for the Democrats and the socialism they're trying to bring in to the country. Yeah, I know. I was like,
president.
What's that?
That was his first year as president. He got elected in 52, started in January of 53.
Oh, and mind you, this interview is going on while he's getting ready to head out to go fishing. So basically, it's talking a little bit about that, but he's also talking about how if they let the Democrats in to run the country, that the Republicans will never get it back again. And they don't want the socialism of the Democrats to take over the country, and they want to keep the communists out and all of this rhetoric.
Yeah, it's the middle of the Cold War.
Yeah.
Cold War politics.
And I probably capped it because it's Eisenhower and we have the Eisenhower stamp that the Zodiac used. He obviously had something for Eisenhower because he pasted so many Eisenhower stamps on all his communications, and in a lot of cases more than he needed to.
Well, Eisenhower, he won re-election. He served 8 years till 1960. But at the end, his exit speech, he warned of the military-industrial complex. He saw it coming. So he grew wiser with age, and he wasn't such a heavy-duty Cold Warrior towards the end, but his term was over. And his vice president the whole time, the whole 8 years, was Richard Nixon.
Oh. And so then we had Nixon come into office, what, in the 60s? Well,
68. But Nixon ran against Kennedy in 60 and almost won.
Gotcha. Yeah, but Kennedy had the backing of the mob and big money. And so there's that. So now that we've expounded upon the fact that JFK ran and won with mob money, and then, of course, the theories are that he was taken out by the very same people who put him in, right?
Yep.
Because of his, I guess once he got in, he thought he could make some changes, and they're not allowed to allow you to do that.
I think this book I'm reading right now, it's about the Kennedys and Marilyn Monroe and Dorothy Kilgallen, the journalist, all of whom have been murdered. And so it basically says the mastermind behind it was the mob, the Chicago mob, the Louisiana mob, and the Florida three guys. Giancana, Marcello, and who's the other guy? I forget the third name. It'll come to me. Traficante.
I know.
Santo Traficante in Florida.
Correct. And those are all the things that Harriet believes she deciphered in the letters as these connections to these individuals. So I kept another one. It's Secrets of the Smithsonian, American History from the Smithsonian. At one point in time, I guess I was getting these magazines. This one's not as old. It's 2019. But it actually goes...
Real quick,
what's that?
We'll run that subject real quick, briefly, because it's the same book. Basically, Joe Kennedy, the dad, is the one that brought in the mob to help influence the elections in Illinois, mainly Chicago area, and a couple other eastern states. And that's what won Kennedy election. But he basically promised these mobsters that we won't go after you if you help us win the election. Right. And the first thing that John Kennedy does, he appoints Robert to be the attorney general. And Robert is gung-ho against the mob. So the mobsters felt betrayed.
100%.
And then
because they're the ones that get them to where they're at. I mean, if people think that honestly that politics has any separation or any degree of separation from the mob, they're absolutely ridiculous. So in the Secrets of American History in the Smithsonian, I found this article, which I'll probably put this up more. It's Suspect at City Hall. It talks about this guy O'Dwyer, who was the mayor of New York City. He was basically thought to be a very honest and upstanding individual. And he, it turned out he actually had connections with everybody, the mob, syndicates, cartels, you name it. He was basically kind of the handyman for all of these individuals and facilitating whatever their needs were so that they continued to make their money and prosper. And in the end result of this particular article, O'Dwyer is actually given a ambassador of Mexico position by Truman, because if it's found out that he has these connections and he's brought to court to have to testify, it's going to come out that Truman is involved. So the overall entire premise of this particular article is outing this O'Dwyer guy and this DA, Miles McDonald, who literally put all the pieces together while O'Dwyer was in office. And the only way to prevent him from being prosecuted was to make him an ambassador of Mexico and send him to Mexico, which that ties back around to our thoughts and feelings about the CIA running establishments out of Mexico where people would go to hide when they were under indictment for tax evasion, RICO statute, fraud, like whatever it was that they were in trouble for.
Yeah.
This includes
City
casinos.
Was a huge CIA base.
Yeah. This article is
there's tons of ties to the Mexico City CIA base and Oswald and the Kennedy assassination.
Well, and it says here that McDonald said that he declined to run for governor and other high public offices after being the DA because it was actually quite simple. He said he would have been killed. Look at JFK.
You got to toe the line.
Yeah, I don't think by any means that was somebody who was just paranoid. I think that
he knew exactly what he was into.
Yes.
These people don't play.
Another article that I found, and this kind of goes to the attempts of media to sway the public as to what's really going on in cases. I'm trying to see. This is May 26th of 2014. And of course, the head article says, that's good. This man killed Jon Benet. And this is the man they're claiming, Edward Edwards. Of course, he has a completely different name. So this last week, I have been contacted by somebody who believes Lawrence K. was the Zodiac. We've looked at these guys' pictures. I think I've covered Ed Edwards as well already, so I didn't make a big to-do about it. The bottom line is that they're putting this out. Now, I know that's the Globe, which is kind of more like a tabloid-style newspaper than what somebody... And I hate to even say not a reputable news source, because quite frankly, we can see how none of the news sources are reputable. Why didn't you go into journalism?
Why didn't I?
Yeah.
I did. That's
Shortly?
Yeah, briefly. But then I had interviews with the Wall Street Journal, LA Times, and the Wall Street Journal didn't want me for some reason. But LA Times said they would hire me, but they wanted me to get some experience on a small daily first. And I interviewed in Lodi. They wanted me to move to Lodi. Said, screw that. And so my dad said, hey, if you want to go to law school, I'll pay for it. So I took the LSAT and applied to law schools.
Nice. Okay. Well, that was really kind of
myself through college with journalism scholarships. Sacramento
there you go.
KCRA, Sacramento Press Club.
Nice. Well, some of my research also led me back down a rabbit hole in regards to the Sierra Club, which is the card that was involved with Donna Lass, and it turned out that Sierra Club was not the Sierra Club. The Sierra Club, which was an elite group, actually met at the Condominium Association, which is named something completely different, which I'll be bringing that up at a later date once we wrap ourselves back around it again. But it literally goes back to these elitist groups. And why does the Zodiac keep pointing them out? Oh,
was that Incline Village at North Shore, Tahoe?
Yes.
Okay.
So this article on this Ed Edwards guy, which I thought was more interesting as I was doing my research and stumbled across Wikipedia's Zodiac suspect list once again. Of course, they're bashing Dennis, and then they go on to try to make light of me and that I'm not credible because I have introduced Jon Benet's handwriting, or the ransom note handwriting, into the cases, indicating that I believe there's a connection between that handwriting and the Zodiac killers. So while they're maintaining I must be I'm not credible because I've made this astonishment, They say in here, this guy, John Cameron, who is a retired cold case cop, reveals Edwards killed Jon Benet. Now, of course, he's written a book on it, and he's got this full-page spread by the Globe, world exclusive. But I wanted to read just a couple spots out of it, because Cameron reveals Edwards, like Zodiac, enjoyed leaving false ransom notes at crime scenes, giving clues to his identity. This supports an analysis by FBI profiler John Douglas, who said that Jon Benet ransom note is a puzzle that could eventually identify the killer. Certainly the writings of, and I need to find some writings from Edwards, because that's really the only way it's going to break down in this note or anything else. Left at other crime scenes would contain personal information about the victim's family, says former Detective Cameron. This steers the investigation to focus on someone within the family, while Edwards would slip away laughing at the police. Let me see. He believes, basically his book states that he also believes that Ed Edwards could have been the Zodiac killer, that he began killing at the age of 11, and that dates it back to 1945. I almost have a suspicion, if I got his book, that I would find that he was referring back to the lipstick killings, because he refers to a little girl that was killed and beheaded. But at the age of 11, I find it very hard to believe that this man at the age of 11 was
where's this guy's from, and what was his profession?
He's all over the place. Again, I'm going to do a little more research into him. I'm pretty sure that based on his not having any likeness to the Zodiac composite, and his age is about 5 years younger than that. Well, I think it would have made him approximately 34 or 35 at the time of the Zodiac killings, when the Officer Folk indicated 35 to 41, that he did have kind of, a wrinkly neck and graying hair. So I don't believe that Ed Edwards was the likely person. And I did take a look this time at Lawrence Kane's handwriting this last week, and I found that he has a very poor line quality. He suffered a brain injury to his frontal lobe in 1960 or 1962. Either way, he has very rudimentary handwriting that doesn't have as nice of a line quality or speed and fluidity as we see in the Zodiac letters, which indicates to me that he's not the author of those letters. If I can get some handwriting on Ed Edwards, I will definitely take a look at that too. Either way, let's move back on to the nefariousness of this. I say this case, but really we're still on Epstein at this point. And there's a very big tie into this. And that's why I want everybody to understand our history. If we forget about history, we stop looking at these people in our future, and we vote for them, not knowing where they really came from and what they're prepared to do, which means not protect us. Yeah. So last week we were talking about Lolita Express, which is, it says Epstein, who often is pictured with or in a Gulfstream G550 jet owned by the the company JEGE. It's probably an acronym, with which he chartered it, and owned a Boeing 727 and traveled in it frequently, logging 600 flying hours a year, usually with guests on board. The jet was nicknamed the Lolita Express by locals in the Virgin Islands because of the frequent arrivals at Little St. James with underage girls. Forbes reports that between 1990 and 2001, the Lolita jet was owned by Wexner. Now, Wexner is that the Victoria's Secret guy?
I don't know. Name sounds familiar, though.
Who then transferred it for an undisclosed sum to Epstein. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's planes. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was interviewed in the course of his 2024 bid for presidency and came clean about his travels with Epstein. In 2003, Epstein flew to Cuba with Colombian President Andres Pastrana Arango at the invitation of Cuban President Fidel Castro. According to the Miami Herald, Epstein was considering relocating to Cuba to evade U.S. law enforcement. Okay. Yeah. Trump flew at least 6 times on Epstein's planes between 1993 and 1997, according to Michael Corcoran. Trump flew Epstein on his own airplane at least once in September 2002. Epstein flew Clinton, Kevin Spacey, and Chris Tucker to Africa in his jet. Flight records obtained, and this is all information that's come out in the Epstein emails. Basically, at least that's what Wikipedia is saying. But we also heard Wikipedia say that I was full of it because I made a connection that obviously other people are making as well. We just have different suspects. And my suspect's handwriting happens to match. So once we get over that hump. Flight records obtained in 2016 show Clinton flew 27 times on the jet. In 2019, a Clinton spokesperson stated that in 2002 and 2003, Clinton took 4 trips on Epstein's airplane, making stops on 3 continents, all with his staff and Secret Service detail.
Wow.
Yeah. Liquid funding and the Bear Stearns explosion. This is going to describe the real estate market events that occurred from 2000 to 2008. And I was literally livid. This is why I left the real estate business, is because this crash, I believed, could be directly linked and blamed on the lenders who were providing bad products that were not viable for Americans. And then we had the largest amount of foreclosures and Americans losing their home. And now we're at a point where Americans can barely even buy a home. Unless you've got 3 different families living together and willing to go in on a deed, the pricing and the interest rates are so high that it makes it literally impossible for anybody to, in a lower level class, to own a home. So it says liquid funding and the Bear Stearns explosion, 2000 to 2008. Epstein was the president of the Bermuda Incorporated Company, Liquid Funding Ltd, between 2000 and 2007. The company was an early pioneer in expanding the king of debt that could be accepted on repurchase, or the repo market, which involves a lender giving money to a borrower in exchange for securities that the borrower then agrees to buy back at an agreed upon later time and price. The innovation of liquid funding and other early companies was that instead of having stocks and bonds as the underlying securities, it had commercial mortgages and investment-grade residential mortgages bundled into complex securities as the underlying security. Liquid funding was initially 40% owned by Bear Stearns. Through the help of credit rating agencies, Standard & Poor's, Fitch Ratings, and Moody's Investor Service, the new bundled securities were able to be created for companies so that they received a gold-plated AAA rating. The implosion of complex securities, because of their inaccurate ratings, led to the collapse of the Bear Stearns in March 2008 and set in motion the 2008 financial crisis and the subsequent Great Recession. If liquid funding were left holding large amounts of such securities as collateral, it could have lost large amounts of money. In August of 2006, a month after the federal investigation of him, Epstein invested $57 million in the Bear Stearns high-grade structured credit strategies enhanced leverage hedge fund. The SEC filings for the Bear Stearns fund show that Epstein's financial trust company controlled the votes of a 10% share. This fund was highly leveraged in mortgage-backed collateralized debt obligations. Now, when I was done with real estate after watching the fall of the market, what I saw was, subprime lenders go away. We were back to just regular banks. You needed to fit back into a box. The foreclosure processes were heavy-handed, and they were selling the debt first off, then foreclosing on the property and selling it on the court steps. And they also had insurance to cover their losses. So these people were being paid these people became zillionaires, I guess I would like to call it, during this particular financial crisis that affected so many Americans. And this is why it's so very important that you understand the camaraderie between and the association of mobs, syndicate, politicians, big banks, and Epstein is kind of tying them all together for us right now. And that's the only reason why I'm still kind of even interested and reporting any of this stuff. So it says the U.S. government began negotiation with Epstein for a plea agreement in mid-2007 as the Bear Stearns hedge fund began to collapse. And when I looked at this financial trust company, it says in August 2006, a month after the federal investigation of him began, Epstein invested, I already read that. SEC filings for Bear Stearns, but Epstein's financial trust company controlled the values of 10%. This is what I was trying to show you. So basically, whenever you find a red link on Wikipedia, it's because they've scrubbed and removed the information. So I thought it was very, very odd that while they are basically reporting on the affiliations and businesses of Epstein, they have literally removed the information in regards to his his businesses and the nefariousness of his businesses and what they were involved with. And for me, that's again, that's a hit in the gut, because encyclopedias don't go back to remove information. It is a ledger of history. So why are you removing and scrubbing from the internet these particular companies? And we're going to see more of that. So this was just the first one. When I clicked on it, I went, wait a minute, why? It says literally financial trust company page does not exist.
Wow.
The heck you say? It obviously used to.
Yeah.
So on April 18th of 2007, an investor in the fund who had 57 million, they're talking about Epstein, discussed redeeming his investment. At this time, the fund had a leverage ratio of 17-1, which meant for every dollar invested, there were $17 of borrowed funds. Therefore, the redemption of this investment would have been equivalent to removing 1 billion from the thinly traded CDO market. The selling of CDO assets to meet the redemptions that month began a repricing process and general freeze in the CDO market. The repricing of the CDO assets caused the collapse of the fund 3 months later in July, and the eventual collapse of Bear Stearns in March 2008. Losses to investors in the two Bear Stearns funds were estimated to exceed $1.6 billion. I don't know who has $1.6 billion to lose. I don't know anybody personally.
Multiple investors.
Right, but that's still a lot. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
By the time Bear Stearns Fund began to fail in May 2007, Epstein had begun to negotiate a plea deal with the U.S. Attorney's Office concerning imminent charges for sex with minors. In August of 2007, a month after the fund collapsed, the U.S. Attorney in Miami, Alexander Acosta, entered into direct discussions about the plea agreement. Acosta brokered a lenient deal, according to him, because he had been ordered by higher government officials who told him that Epstein was an individual of importance to the government. What the flip? As part of the negotiations, according to the Miami Herald, Epstein provided unspecified information to the Florida federal prosecutors for a more lenient sentence and was supposedly unnamed investor number one for the New York federal prosecutors in their unsuccessful June 2008 criminal case against Chiaffi and Tannen, two of the managers of the failed Bear Stearns hedge fund. So basically, he turned evidence, right? That's what that's saying?
And yeah, in exchange for a lenient plea deal.
Yeah. You can hurt our
you
can hurt our and abuse our American citizens if you give him. But he was involved with this.
Right.
He assisted in the whole setup. He invested in the program. He was part of it. And so if he turns evidence, not only is he forgiven and given a lenient sentence for all the women and children he's hurt, but he also does not get implicated in this. And maybe that's who Wexler was. That was his name, right? Wexler, I said. I think was Wexler the other Ponzi scheme guy that, once again, while Epstein was involved with him, he went down and got busted for the Ponzi scheme, but they didn't even touch Epstein. They never even brought charges against Epstein, even though he was involved. And even based on the Epstein documentary, he was involved with that whole entire scheme. But somehow everybody clears Epstein every single time.
Crazy.
Let's see here. As part of the negotiations, according to the Miami, blah, blah, blah. Alan Dershowitz, that's the attorney, one of Epstein's attorneys in 2008 criminal case, told Fox Business Network in 2019 he would have been touting that if he had cooperated. The idea that Epstein helped in any prosecution is news to me. Moody's report that on April 18, 2008, all outstanding rated liabilities of liquid funding were paid in full. All outstanding, and liquid funding was Epstein's business. Paid in full, all debts.
Who?
Exactly.
Government or who? Yeah.
Right.
Why are we paying off private debts too?
Exactly. And I think you might get your answer. At the time, the liquidator had not yet sold the beleaguered fund to its new owner as of May 1st, JP Morgan. So all the debts were paid off just before it got sold to JP Morgan. Good morning, Lindsay. Oh, I see her. I see her, but I don't see her. All right. So now we have ties to Zuckerman. In 2003, New York Daily News publisher Mortimer Zuckerman partnered with Epstein, advertising executive Donnie Douche.
Donnie Douche.
Is it Deutsch?
Probably Deutsch.
Ooh, that made my day. And investor Nelson Peltz in a bid to acquire New York Magazine. The ultimate buyer was Bruce Wasserstein, a longtime Wall Street investment banker who paid US $55 million over US $10 million above the offer from Zuckerman, Epstein, Deutsch, and Peltz. In 2004, Epstein and Zuckerman committed up to US $25 million to refinance Radar, a celebrity and pop culture magazine founded by Meir Rashan. Epstein and Zuckerman were equal partners in the venture. Rashan, as its editor-in-chief, retained a small ownership stake. It folded after 3 issues as a print publication and became exclusively an online one. Why? Is this where
New York Magazine, that's different from the New Yorker, right? Because the New Yorker is huge. I didn't even know there was a New York magazine.
It says New York Daily News and the New York Magazine.
Okay.
So we've discussed them trying to obtain airplane companies, right? Because they need to facilitate travel. Now they would definitely need some way of communicating with people, right? In their little sick world of pedophilia, and online databases are evidently a great way of doing that. 2002 to 2008, a company called Zwirn. Between 2002 and 2005, Epstein invested $80 million in the DB Zwirn Special Opportunities Fund. Notice again, we have a red highlighted link. That means that link is no longer available and that information has now been scrubbed. Special Opportunities Fund, a hedge fund that invested in illiquid debt securities. In November 2006, Epstein attempted to redeem his investment after he was informed of accounting irregularities in the fund. By this time, his investment had grown to $140 million. Huh, that's nice. That's a $60 million increase.
Wow.
The DB Zwirn Fund refused to redeem the investment. Hedge funds that invest in illiquid securities typically have years-long lockups on their capital for all investors and require redemption requests to be made in writing 60 to 90 days in advance. The fund was closed in 2008, so obviously this must have been part of whatever was going on with that crash, and its remaining assets of approximately $2 billion, including Epstein's investment, were transferred to Fortress Investment Group when that firm bought the assets in 2009. Epstein later went to arbitration with Fortress over his redemption attempt. The outcome of that arbitration is not publicly known. That probably means he got his money back.
You got some of it, that's for sure.
Slid. Yeah. You don't want to say that out loud and make it public because everybody else who lost their investments didn't get theirs back as I would believe that Epstein did, especially with all of the special treatment he's received. So it gets a little more interesting. We've got Epstein and Barack in the Carbine Company, 2014 to 2019. After his first arrest, Epstein began an interest in the surveillance industry. Oh my God. Planes, media, surveillance, like all of this is just screaming, covering all your bases and owning all the companies that will help to protect you and facilitate whatever your deeds are. I hear you now, Lindsay. How are you doing?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How about yourself?
Good.
He's moving really fast.
Yeah. Got a flickering going on there. All right. So Epstein maintained a close relationship with former Israeli Prime Minister and Defense Minister Ehud Barak, exchanging private emails with him and meeting more than 30 times between 2013 and 2017. He also facilitated Barak's interactions with prominent figures, including Peter Thiel, as well as Sergei Belyakov and Viktor Vekselberg, who were connected to Vladimir Putin's circle. We actually just did a class yesterday on graphology, and we looked at Vladimir Putin's handwriting. Oh, this man he's hides some stuff. Let's just say that. These interactions are documented in the leaked Barack Epstein emails released by the Handala hacker group. whose authenticity has been partially corroborated by independent reporting, including the Sunday Times. In business, Epstein leveraged his relationship with Barack to get access to Thiel. In 2015, Epstein invested in Reporty Homeland Security, later rebranded as Carbine, a startup headed by Barack, which developed advanced emergency communication technologies. The company's leadership included CEO Amir Elahi, a former Special Forces officer, and Director Pinchas Buckhurst. Oh man, these names. A former Defense Ministry Director General and Commander of IDF Cyber Unit 8200. In many years, Epstein's acquaintances had repeatedly encouraged Thiel to meet him. Reid Hoffman, Thiel's friend from the PayPal Mafia, directly introduced the two and joined some meetings. Epstein pitched Reporty to Thiel, found Valar Ventures in 2016, although the firm declined. Valar partner Andrew McCormack indicated that they might revisit the venture once the company matured. Epstein had previously invested US $40 million into funds managed by Valar in 2015 and 2016. In 2018, another Thiel co-founded firm, Founders Fund, participated in Reporty's $15 million Series B funding round non-leading role. Between 2014 and 2016, Thiel had half a dozen scheduled meetings with Epstein at his townhouse, including with other people such as Woody Allen and Catherine Rumler. There is no record of Thiel's social visits to one of Epstein's homes or flights on his private jet. Now, this is what Wikipedia is reporting. I'm going to show you another article that is reporting something else. And we already see how Wikipedia is basically controlling the narrative of what it is we're going to hear, see, and be able to read in regards to this information. So trusting it is just a little out there. But when I saw PayPal Mafia, which I literally think these people are making lots of money by allowing businesses to use and take credit cards, which that fee is taken from us at a rate of 3 to 3.25% for every transaction, depending on how the individual pays, which I don't understand why it depends on how the individual's paid as to how much they're going to charge me. It's paid, period. But that does kind of fluctuate, as I just noticed this last year. It used to be set amount. Now it's fluctuating based on, I guess, how they pay. But I have so many payments through PayPal, it would be very taxing for me to go back and identify how each member paid that bill to determine whether or not my fees were correct for what I was being charged. But I do definitely have a question in regards to that. So the PayPal Mafia is a group of former PayPal employees and founders who have since founded and or developed additional technology companies based in Silicon Valley. So right here in California, they created companies such as LinkedIn, Palantir Technologies, SpaceX, Affirm, Slide, Kiva, or Kiva, I'm not sure how you say that. Here's even worse, YouTube, Yelp, and Yammer. Most of the members attended Stanford University or the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Now, members of the PayPal Mafia on Fortune magazine dressed in a mafia-like attire. We're back to this connection. From left to right, top row to bottom row, Jawad Karim, Jeremy Stoppelman, Andrew McCormack, Premal Shah, Luke Nozek, Ken Howry, David Osaks, Peter Thiel, Keith Raboy, Reid Hoffman, Max Levchin, Roloff Botha, and Russell Simmons. Now,
that's not the Russell Simmons, it's a rap producer.
Is
different
that?
Guy.
Yeah, must be a
Russell
different
Simmons
guy.
That's a rap producer.
Well, so if I had felt that I had been being shadow banned on YouTube, which has been a discussion that I've had over the years with the algorithms not really working out in my favor or the views being given that it deserves of additional stuff, and then go back to find out that the PayPal Mafia, who is somehow intertwined, at least they're trying to say they're not in this article, but wait till I get to the next one. This is released emails later. But these individuals are running the things like YouTube and Yelp and LinkedIn. These are some of the primary places where I actually post my videos. Primary. Yep. I mean, this very channel right now posts immediately to YouTube. And we've been banned from YouTube, the whole company, for a week because somebody mentioned something derogatory in regards to vaccinations. So tell me again, we're not being stifled and people aren't controlling our speech. Right. They all need to stand up for what they're responsible and they're a part of. So other businesses, Barack discussed with Epstein in the leaked Barack-Epstein emails about meeting Putin's ally Viktor Beckelsberg on 6th and 8th day of June 2014. An email sent in April 2015 shows that Barack asked Epstein for his opinion on Beckelsberg-backed Fifth Dimension, a startup which later shut down after being sanctioned in 2018 by the U.S. for alleged election meddling.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, they've been doing it for forever.
Geopolitical activities. This was even more interesting. 2012 to 2019, Ivory Coast Security Agreement. Between 2012 and 2014, Epstein assisted former Israeli Prime Minister and Defense Minister Ehud Barak in what began as a private business initiative involving internal security-related projects in Ivory Coast. According to the documents released by the U.S. House Oversight Committee from Epstein's files and leaked emails from Barak, Epstein played an operational role in advancing the effort. He coordinated Barak's meetings during the UN General Assembly, connected him with Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara's chief of staff and other officials, and helped arrange connections with the president's family. Barak, meanwhile, commissioned former Israeli intelligence officers to produce technical plans for nationwide phone and internet monitoring. So if you can monitor the internet, then why can't you bust these pedophiles? Why can't you bust these sites?
Oh, it's priorities. They have their priorities.
Of course. The private initiative, seeking out the information and the best place to place their money next through the immediate, like they said, immediate information that they're gathering by combing over all of this information. So why is an Israeli individual wanting to comb over phone calls and internet of U.S. citizens? And why is Epstein helping with this? The private initiative later was the basis of a 2014 defense and internal security agreement between Israel and Ivory Coast. What I really need to see is who is Ivory Coast, but Epstein's involved. Mongolia Security Initiative.
Western coast of Africa. Like right in the middle of the coastline. It's a good-sized country. I had a former teacher that lived there.
Well, and the thing is that if they were attempting to do this just in Africa, I mean, there's obviously big pull there too, right?
Yeah. What the hell does Israel have to do with the Ivory Coast, which is thousands of miles away?
Right. And if they can develop these types of systems, it isn't going to be just someplace in Africa that they're running these systems on. It's going to be where there's nothing to stop them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ivory Coast is more resort place because it's got a lot of coastline.
So it must be expensive to be there, and it must be people with big money that's going, and maybe that's why they want to.
Africa, yes, yeah.
Yeah. Mongolia Security Initiative. Epstein performed similar facilitation work as in Ivory Coast for Barak in Mongolia. He assisted in the promotion of Israel's surveillance technology for the Mongolian government. During this period, the Israeli intelligence officer Yoni Koren, a longtime associate and former aide to Barak, stayed multiple times at Epstein's Manhattan residence, including while serving in Barak's office in 2013 and again during extended visits in 2014 and 2015.
Those are powerful connections for Epstein because those Israeli guys, they don't play.
You know who he's reminding me of now is Doug Coe. Do you remember our conversations? He's the guy that's always seen in pictures standing behind presidents all the way back to, I think, Eisenhower. And he ran the annual prayer breakfast, trying to bring all of the world's leaders, no matter how dastardly the leader was. He was trying to group them all together for this. To me, it's a big mob. That's what it feels like.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you know about the security stuff with the Israelis back in the 2001 and even back then to the
we covered that before I think you got on because there was additional security stuff that we were talking about. we are down to our last 30 seconds here. This has been an explosion of information. I told you I went down a rabbit hole 2 weeks ago, and I wasn't lying. Just to know that this is what's been controlling us. These people all work connectively together to facilitate making money, keeping money, and it naturally harms lots of people. I may get kicked off of YouTube after this. I have no idea. But we are going to talk about that article, in which case they do deem that there was a relation and that Epstein had, in fact, donated money to the Thiel businesses. So let's be a little concerned. We'll see what happens. We'll see if I continue to get shadow banned. Thank you guys for being here this morning. We'll see you all next Friday. Everybody take care and have a great weekend.
Yeah, have a good weekend. See you Friday.
Yeah.